Okay, I got a lot to talk about tonight and a lot of work to do tonight. So we're gonna do the double cappuccino. We got the big mug that can fit two coffees, and we got the French vanilla and the caramel. It's way better when you mix them together. I don't think it matters which one you do first. So we're just gonna pop the caramel in there first because that's the one I grabbed first. Now, I do want to take a moment before I get into it to say I love your comments, guys. There are a couple comments from the past day or two that I haven't had a chance to read, but I will read them while this is posting since it's going to be a longer upload. I'll have a moment or two to spend on YouTube. I can't promise that I'll always read all of them. In fact, I can pretty much promise you that eventually we'll reach a point where I can't read all of them anymore because the idea is to keep growing till I have like a million subs and all that stuff, and then you know getting 1,000 comments per video or something like that. I simply won't have time to read them all, but I'm always going to read the comments, even if I can't read all of them. I'm gonna read as many as I can, and maybe eventually I'll have a team member whose specific job is just to put comments in front of me. But that's all probably years in the future. So keep throwing the comments at me. I do read them and I take all the feedback. Now, a lot of people might not necessarily know what they're talking about, but I still listen to what everyone is saying because I'm really good at understanding what people are trying to say, or at the very least, what their feelings towards something are, even if they aren't that great about saying it. And that's a lot of what this conversation is about. It's a hard conversation to have because almost everyone I have this conversation with doesn't really understand what they want. They tell you what they think they want, but they don't actually know what they want. And so instead of doing things that give them what they want, they do things that give them the opposite. Now, okay, it's way colder out there than I expected. Let me go get a hoodie while I'm waiting for this. I was going to go sit on the porch because this is going to be a long discussion. So, what do people want? Everyone, I feel, I don't know where my hoodie is. I've got to go find it. I've got one in particular I want because it's like a zip up. There's two zip ups. If I find either one of those, we're good. Uh, People want safety among everything else. You need food, you need water, you need air, you need shelter. But beyond that, you want safety. You want to feel safe. Okay, there's gonna be a hoodie here. There's like three hoodies here, but most of them are pullovers. All right, here's one of the zip ups, so I can put this on with one hand, probably. So, how do you get safety? How do you feel safe? Well, by preparing to protect yourself and your loved ones. That is the only way, right? No matter what any government says, no matter what any organization says, they can't really do anything to make you safe. Only you can make yourself safe. No one is coming to save you. Let me not spill this real quick. It's full to the brim. This big old cup, kind of heavy. Thank God I've been doing all this work with my hands again. My forearms are strong as fuck. I think I have too much light on out here, actually. I wanted enough light for the video, but now it just feels like too much. Like, I'm the type of person that likes to sit in absolute darkness, and I'm enjoying the sound of the rain. So let me get that open a little bit. I guess you can't really hear the rain as much because it's mostly on the roof. But there's a nice little rain go. Now it's too dark. You just can't even see me. Let me try this. Okay, cool. That's not bad at all. So, but it's in the perfectly wrong spot. Give me a minute. We're trying new things, right? We're always evolving the content. What if I do this? It's more light than I want, but if I put it right here, oh man, that's. I guess I'm just gonna hold it. So, safety. I was watching a video today while I was eating lunch, dinner, whatever you want to call it. I really just eat 2 meals per day. One is breakfast, and that it's just real simple. It's a cup of coffee and a breakfast sandwich, and then I have a a large lunch slash dinner. It's kind of the same thing in both, and then if I'm really hungry, like if I've been up for 24 hours or something, working straight, I'll have like a snack before I go to sleep. Primarily because I find it hard to sleep when I feel hungry. Uh, but yeah, so during my lunch today, I was watching a video from a YouTuber called Shadiversity. And really cool dude. He does a lot of medieval armor and weapons type stuff. And he did a very interesting video that was more focused on the modern day. And the question he was tackling is, how do you protect yourself in a country that makes it illegal to protect yourself, right? So he was talking specifically about the UK and Australia. Now, I feel like personally, from what I've seen, despite its generally good national reputation, Australia seems like one of the least free countries in the world. And I don't want to go too much into that. I know a bit more about UK law and stuff. One of the things I learned in the Shadiversity video is that it's entirely illegal to even own a taser and maybe pepper spray. You aren't allowed to have anything that is any form of weapon, and apparently you aren't even allowed to have armor. They want you to be so vulnerable to attack that you aren't even allowed to have armor. Now we can get into the the philosophical implications of all that and the psychological effects. I don't know if we'll do that all this video because I do these videos and they end up being 40 minutes long. And I don't know if anyone wants to sit and watch a 40-minute long video. Plus, I don't know how much memory I have left on this phone. I really miss my Samsung Galaxy because this never tells me how much memory I have left on my phone. I just run out of memory and the video ends. And am I blocking the microphone by resting it on the table? I don't know. Anyways, I just thought of that Tony with the neon sign guys. He does those videos and he watches some random unhinged TikTok shit and just said, anyways, by my size. Anyways, we're really lucky in the United States. I don't think people realize just how lucky we are. This is, as far as I can tell, the freest country in the world. I know I have a number of UK friends and a number of Australia friends too, actually, mostly from my EVE Online days. I don't know how many of those people watch these YouTube videos and TikTok videos, because all this stuff started post EVE Online, which was all on Twitch. But if I piss anyone off, I am very sorry. But if you're pissed off by this, it probably means you're the one that most needs to hear it. Great Britain, the United Kingdom, is not a free country. Y'all don't even have free speech over there anymore, which is absolutely crazy because you know where America got that from, right? We got it from you guys. And I guess I wasn't intending to specifically speak directly to the UK, but we're doing that now. So let me organize my thoughts for a minute. All right. That tastes really good. It's still too hot though. I want it to cool off a bit so I can just take a nice big chug of it. I watched two video clips recently that really seriously worried me about the state of the United Kingdom. The first was a police officer running away from a knife wielding criminal. Y'all are so fucking backwards that your police are afraid of your criminals. How are your police supposed to protect you if your own police are afraid of your criminals? Let's be 100% clear. America has some serious issues with our policing right now, especially as a retired firefighter who's been on the front lines fighting next to police for almost 15 years. I know all kinds of things that go down with the police, and I have mad respect for police, and I will always support them to a certain extent. But there are things happening with America's police right now that just should not be happening and should never be happening in any country. But that's not what this video is about. I would much rather have the issues we have with America's police right now, where they step over the line sometimes a little bit too much, but thank God we're still mostly holding them accountable for that, although it can be rough at times. Not justice is not always done, especially when you rely on the justice system. You got to rely on the money system if you want justice, which is it really money justice then? No, it's not, of course. But that's another philosophical conversation for a whole different video. I could literally just leave the camera on and talk for an entire year, and I still wouldn't run out of things to say. But the point is, I would much rather have a system that we have here in the United States where sometimes the police step over a line a little bit, and then you need to go through a process to fix things and make that right, than a system that they have in the UK where the police are afraid of the people they're supposed to be protecting you from because they don't have the tools and training necessary to protect you from those people. So if the police can't do anything to protect you, or if you're in a situation in the United States where sometimes the police might be the people you need protection from if we continue down this current path and don't find a way to stop it, you need to protect yourself. You need to protect your loved ones because no one else is coming to save you. That's what it boils down to, which it always blows my mind how short-sighted and simple-minded people are, right? What I don't get is all these liberals, all these leftists. Again, I'm basically stuck smack dab in the middle. So give me time and I will do an entire video destroying the conservatives and the right wingers too. But this one, we're ripping on the Democratic Party. How is it that you claim you're trying to prevent fascism, yet one of your highest ideals is one of the most important steps to allowing fascism to take place. Anytime you want to create an authoritarian government, one of the most important steps is to disarm the populace. And the Democratic Party is the party of disarming the populace. If you really want to stop Donald Trump taking over the United States and claiming himself king, stop voting for people that are trying to take away your guns. Because if you let them take away your guns, then there's going to be no one to stop him from doing that. That's like the whole gist of the video right there. You can probably sign off at that point if you don't want to hear the rest of the rant. But if you want to stick around, give me a minute to suck on this coffee a little bit. The other UK video I saw that really, really concerned me, that made me come to the direct statement that the United Kingdom is not a free state anymore, is not a free country, is there were a couple parents. They have a child that is a special needs child. And recently, the school administrator retired and was replaced by the administration in a process that they didn't feel was very transparent, or at the very least, they didn't feel like they were properly informed about what was going on. So they started asking questions in a private, quote unquote, as in, I think everyone could join it, but at the same time, it wasn't a public forum so much like Twitter or something like that. They started asking questions in this semi-private WhatsApp group that was related to the school, like, hey, what's the process for picking this new school administrator, and how are we going to be informed about it? And police showed up and arrested them. I'm not even kidding. It is an insane imbalance where you have actual criminals, and it wasn't just a police officer, it was an entire cadre of police officers. It is such an insane balance that when there's an actual knife wielding criminal on the streets, you have one police officer running away from them. But when someone expresses concerns about how their child is going to get the help they need in the school, that they probably don't really have a choice to take them anywhere else, right? When one person or two parents that are totally law-abiding citizens just ask some unfortunate questions, you show up. I don't remember how many there were on the video. There were like 6 police officers. That might not be the exact number, but there were a whole... I don't think I've ever seen 6 police officers show up to anything in the United States unless there's shit going down. You know, the fact that 6 police officers in the UK show up to ask you, like, so you were asking some questions on WhatsApp. That is absolutely fucking mind-blowing to me. How is it that they are devoting more country resources to keeping you silent than they are to protecting you from criminals? That is so fucking insane and backwards. You guys are on the verge of existing in the fascist British state that we see in the movie V for Vendetta, if you aren't there already. I don't know how anyone can possibly exist in such a state. When you have to be more afraid of the police and the criminals than you do of anything else, because the police are doing just as much to harm you in that country as the criminals are, and they're doing absolutely nothing to protect you. It's fucking insane. And the craziest thing is, there are entire laws that are specifically focused around preventing you from protecting yourselves. Now, I don't know with the laws about body armor in the UK. The Shadiversity is from Australia, Victoria, Australia specifically, he said in the video today. So, the laws about body armor, we're talking about that. What his entire video was about was the rise in the epidemic of knife and machete crime in the UK and Australia. And how are you supposed to protect yourself from these when you're not even allowed to carry weapons yourself, but you have criminals roaming around the streets that the police are just running away from, right? So his suggestions are truly medieval. And I'm not joking. Literally, the guy went back to the Middle Ages and was like, you should probably wear chainmail, and I forget what it's called. It's like the old equivalent of a fencing jacket. It's a type of layered cloth armor that's designed primarily to prevent slashing weapons. It has some fancy name that I'm sure someone who is more familiar with medieval armor can tell you about. But here's one of the craziest things, right? You're not even allowed to buy body armor in Australia. A purely defensive, protective piece of equipment, you're not allowed to buy it because they want you to be vulnerable so they can control you and so they can force you into submission. While I don't agree with it, I can kind of see the argument for outlawing weapons. But if you're going to outlaw weapons, then why do you have so many criminals on these streets with weapons? It's almost like you're not doing anything to enforce those laws except against people that actually follow the laws because you want people to live in fear. I'm getting a little heated. I'm gonna take a moment to recollect my thoughts before I just go straight off into the rant. I want people to actually be able to follow this, and my brain just bounces around through entire different galaxies, while I feel like most people are still like stuck in this one little island. So I want y'all to be able to follow it. All right. So because body armor is effectively outlawed for the average law abiding citizen, which I think it's important to acknowledge here, real quick, that criminals don't follow laws regarding armor and weapons. That's what makes them criminals in the first place. So making a new law expecting a criminal to follow that is like putting up a new fence when someone cut through the fence. It's not going to stop whoever did that. They're just going to cut through the fence again. You need to upgrade your fence. If it's a chicken wire fence and someone cut through it with a razor, you either need to upgrade the fence to be like a concrete wall, or you need to put someone there that's going to chase who's ever cutting through that fence away. And they just aren't taking these steps to actually protect you. It's all a false flag created to make you feel safe, but actually make you less safe in the long run so that you're easier to control and manipulate through fear. So, what did Shadiversity suggest? Well, he suggested medieval armor because medieval armor is not generally considered armor by most modern laws. It's not outlawed by most modern laws. Most modern laws outlaw things like bulletproof vests, stab proof vests that are specifically designed with modern materials and classified as armor. But if you go to these medieval wool and linen layered coats, essentially, then they're essentially Renaissance fair curiosities that the government doesn't really care about. Now, they're just as effective as a lot of this modern armor when it comes to stopping a slashing knife attack or a slashing machete attack or something like that. The the problem is they're often a little bit more expensive because they're not as readily produced and also generally slightly less comfortable because just of the advances in technology. You have these old layered medieval armors, it's like wearing a winter coat, a full on winter coat. Whereas with a modern stab proof vest, you can get one that it's basically a hoodie. And they're indistinguishable from hoodies. There are even hoodies these days that you can put a, a bulletproof plate in. Now, bulletproof has quotes for anyone that knows anything about armor. Because even if it's rated level 4, level 5, once it takes that first shot, it's probably going to break. Uh, Depending on the type of armor, it's either going to break immediately after taking the first shot, but every single shot that it takes reduces its effectiveness. So nothing is truly bulletproof, even bulletproof glass, because if you shoot enough times, you'll get through it. You just want to throw that out there for anyone who's going to split hairs in the comments and be like, well, actually, I'm using the colloquialism here. I know it's not truly bulletproof. I know a stab proof vest isn't truly stab proof. They have diminishing returns the more damage they take. But that's get down. You're not supposed to be on tables and you know that. Get down, Charlie. Yeah. All right. He doesn't like when I create content because I'm talking to you guys instead of him. He's very jealous. He always has to be the center of attention, and especially since I haven't been streaming the past couple days because the PC is being entirely reworked from the ground up. He had my attention all day yesterday, and he's like, "How dare you just talk to your phone for an hour now?" This is going on way longer than I anticipated. But I'm not done. And that's also why I didn't want to go into the other things, because I knew I'd keep circling around. I don't script these, I just do everything off the top. I understand that it's better for the algorithm to script things, to have these jump cuts that keep the kids addicted to whatever you're trying to say. But there's two reasons why I don't script these. One is I'm lazy. No, I'm kidding. The one is I just don't really have the time right now. I'm very pinched for time. Everything happens as soon as it can happen, and I need it to be done as soon as it can be done. So I have very little spare time at the moment. Eventually, once I can hire assistants and a manager and all that stuff, I will probably create loose scripts. I don't ever want to be reading from a script like a lot of YouTubers do. but I would like to have a series of bullet points, maybe with some sources there, for me to make these videos a little more concise and focused and get me back on track when I start ranting about stuff. So that's the first reason, is I just simply don't have the time to create this script and then record the video, because up until the moment I started recording this video, I was working on something else. And as soon as I hit stop and send, I'm going to be working on something else. But once I can hire an assistant, I'll have the assistant create outlines for me to help these videos be more concise and focused, so I don't rant about unrelated things to the topic of the video like I'm doing right now. And the second is because I don't like that type of content. I cannot watch it. If there are too many jump cuts, if the person is shouting at me like Mr. Beast or Logan Paul type content, not to knock on either of them, like they've had their controversies, I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying that type of, hey guys, welcome to my video type shit. I can't do it. I'm like, no, just instantly click off. Also, I don't like the constant jump cuts, because part of me makes it wonder what they're hiding, right? I want everyone, not everyone, but I hear lots of people saying what happened to the old days of people just talking into a camera on YouTube, just creating simple, uplifting, pleasant content. Well, in a way, you guys did, right? Because the algorithm pushes what people want to watch. And maybe you don't realize it, but you're helping to feed into that by being addicted to that type of content. And addiction's weird, where you often do things you don't want to do. You watch things that you aren't interested in. You spend money on things that you don't have because you're addicted to it. And the more you scratch that itch, the itchier it gets. So once you start watching those TikTok jump cut videos with people shouting in your face, it's going to fill up your feed with those videos, because one, they make more money when you watch those videos. That's the number one reason. But two, those videos keep you on the platform longer, watching more of those videos, right? From my personal experience, most people would rather watch one 20 to 30 minute video like this, where they just sit down, have a chat, and then go about their daily lives and think about whatever we were talking about. But they don't do that. Instead, they watch 33-minute long videos, and they're just addicted to their phone or the TV all day. Because one, the 3-minute video doesn't fill you up. You know, it's like eating hors d'oeuvres or cereal all day. Eventually, you need a real meal. So you'll down way more calories if you just pick off the poo-poo platter than if you sit down and eat a big burger, right? Because once you get that full feeling, you're like, all right, I'm gonna move on to something else. They mostly do these 3 to 10 minute videos because those don't fill you up. They keep you wanting more. So then you click on another one that also doesn't fill you up, and then another one that also doesn't fill you up. And then by the time you stop, you've spent 2 hours watching these videos instead of just 30 to 40 minutes watching one. Now, I'm really off topic now, but it kind of all wraps back into the same thing. which is, I don't know if most people can follow this, but it all comes down to them preying on your human psychology, right? These video platforms prey on your human psychology to keep you addicted. Meanwhile, these government entities are preying on your human psychology to keep you in fear. And the only way to deal with fear or addiction, I just heard like a scream or something, but I think it was more like an animal scream than a human scream. Or maybe like kids having fun type of scream. It wasn't like it didn't give me a chills type scream, you know? So we're not going to worry about it for now. But I forget what I was saying. That really threw my brain out the window because I have this. Okay, yeah, it's definitely like kids, or I can just hear them being loud now. I have this protector instinct type thing, where if I, it's probably partially from being a firefighter for 15 years, or maybe I was a firefighter for 15 years because of that. Who knows? Chicken before the egg type thing. But if I get the sense that anyone might slightly be in the least bit of trouble, it's just like instant hard reset. Everything focuses on that for a moment. And I was talking about how they keep you addicted by preying on human psychology, and they keep you in fear by preying on human psychology. And this video is more about how they keep you in fear by preying on human psychology. The worst thing you can do for your mental health is watch the news. I'm fully in that belief. The second worst thing you can do for your mental health is watch social media. Now, that part's a little bit ironic because here I am posting to social media, right? But it comes back to the part where I'm trying to make a different type of content that I'm sure the algorithm is mostly going to bury, and that's why social media is so bad for you. It is designed to keep you addicted. It is designed to make money off of you. And these things that are most addictive, that make the platform the most amount of money, are the things that tap into your most primal instincts that you have very little control over. That most people, especially in the modern day, never learn to control at all. So, what are these primal instincts? Well, the three biggest ones are sex, fear, and envy. Now, envy, that one's really complicated. Maybe we'll do a whole video unpacking that one. But I think sex, it's pretty obvious. Regardless of whether they're a male or female, more or whatever in between, there are more than two genders, but we're not going to get into that whole thing. There's theoretically an infinite number of genders because gender is a mental construct informed by society. So it can be literally whatever society dictates it is. That's just a weird thing, right? We're talking primarily about biological sex when I say male or female, which is 99% of people is either a male or a female, with a small percentage having weird biological things that I don't want to go into. If you want to, one of the best areas to start reading about that is read about chimeras, not the physical, not the mythical beasts, but the it's chimera syndrome or something like that, where a person can actually have multiple types of DNA. So they can have both male and female DNA, although one usually presents more than the other. But there are more than two genders, and there are more than two biological sexes, but most people fit into two biological sexes. And I'm supremely annoyed that I need to go into these like dawn of time explanations when I'm trying to talk over something relatively simple, but people are so fucking stupid and short-sighted and selfish these days that if I don't mention this, I know someone in the comments is going to be like, well, he didn't mention the XXY type chromosome or whatever. And I'm not even sure if that's one of the actual ones, but it's possible for people to have more than two copies of the sex chromosome. It's weird shit, right? So let me reset. They feed on your base human instincts using these psychology tricks. Probably, arguably, the most powerful one is sex. I'd say that's the most easily assailable one, and the one that we're kind of least aware of. It's less powerful than fear overall, but it's more widely applicable, right? Most advertisements that you see try to sell you something using sex, not fear. Now, they do capitalize on that a little bit. There's a reason FOMO is a term, but they lean more into the sex aspect because it's always some male model with a perfect jawline or some female model with yoga pants crawling up her crack, right? So, the first thing they do to keep you addicted and in control, under control, is by appealing to your sex drive. Now, the second thing, which is far less conscious but far more overwhelmingly powerful, is fear. And that's the one we're really talking about today. So we'll come back to that in a second. The third one is envy. And that one's pretty straightforward, but it's really complex as to how it actually works. It's all of these relate to our base survival instincts. To be completely clear with that, sex, it's why we exist, basically. People ask, well, what is the meaning of life? Well, from a purely scientific standpoint, the meaning of life is to procreate and propagate the species, right? So the vast majority of us all have this instinct to have sex for the purpose of procreating and propagating the species. So that's one of the things that go on. Then we have envy, and we'll get to fear last because that's what we're talking about. Envy, again, pretty straightforward. The way they do it in marketing is they make you go like, oh, if you don't have this Gucci bag, you're poor. Oh, if you don't have this Maserati, you're poor. But you know what the ironic thing is? Most of the insanely rich people you see in the world, especially the ones that stay rich, don't waste their money on those things. Like, love him or hate him, however you feel about the dude, Bill Gates is mostly seen wearing blue jeans and plain button-down shirts. He's one of the richest people in the world. I think Mark Zuckerberg drives like a $30,000 car or something like that. You can fact check all this stuff. I might be making some small mistakes, but the point is these people are generally not, even if they have them, they're generally not like buying and flashing Bugattis or Gucci or Balenciaga. This is all stuff to make people who aren't rich feel like they have a higher social standing than they actually do. Now, the envy is primarily a survival instinct that relates back to basic necessities but has been capitalized on in a consumerist way now that most people's basic necessities are either provided for or easily obtainable compared to the vast majority of human history, by the way, which I think is something people don't do at all, is zoom out. They just think, oh man, I had trouble buying my McDonald's this week because prices are going up. Well, yeah, but there used to be a time in human history where you used to need to kill other people to get your food, generally, or had to fight other people for those food sources. Compared to the vast majority of human history, it is really easy to get food nowadays, especially even though housing is a whole other issue. You can go and work a gas station and be able to buy a lot of food, but you don't even need to because most governments provide food assistance these days. So, in the terms of basic necessities, it is really easy to get those. It is the easiest to get those that it has ever been in human history right now. So, they prey off that instinct of, oh, I need these things to survive by making it about your place in society. And it's pretty obvious to a lot of people, although it's not necessarily true. It's kind of like common knowledge that if you have a higher socioeconomic status in society, it's easier to survive. But I somewhat find the opposite to be true, whereas the less people who know your name, the easier it is to survive, to like make your own little corner where no one's bothering you. But it's all a mental trick. So that's where the envy thing comes in. Whereas it used to be, oh, that tribe has this herd of buffalo that keeps them fed and gives them furs to keep them warm. We need that because our people are starving. Now it's, oh, that person has $2,000 jeans. I need that because my jeans are $20 and have holes in them. So that's where the envy thing comes in. Now, the most important one, and the one I really want to talk about, is fear. Because in some ways, the other two are based upon fear. All the evil in the world comes back to fear. That's one of the few absolute statements I will make. And it's often layers to it where the fear isn't obvious. A lot of people like to say money is the root of all evil. A lot of people like to say women are the root of all evil. A lot of people like to say men are the root of all evil. All those are lies they're using to keep themselves from seeing the truth. The truth is that fear is the root of all evil. And it feeds upon those other things. Fear of a lack of money to buy the things you need. Fear of a lack of access to men or women to procreate. Fear that men or women are going to harm you because they've done so in the past. These are the true roots of evil, and they all come back to fear, regardless of what it is that drives someone, anytime I have analyzed evil behavior, whether it's my own evil choices where I fell off the wagon or made some bad decisions, or massive evil on a government scale, evil that my friends or family have done to me, any type of evil that I've analyzed in my life, it all comes back to fear in the end. Fear being the primary decision maker. And that's why they say fear is the mind killer. Now, how does this play into self defense? The reason it plays into self defense is because they lie to you. They promise you they're going to keep you safe. They say, you don't need to be afraid anymore because we're going to show up and protect you. All you need to do is give away the ability to protect yourself in exchange. And then they don't do that. Instead of stopping a mass murderer from killing your children, they stand outside having conversations for 40 minutes while someone goes on a rampage in a school in Uvalde. Instead of showing up to protect you from these knife-wielding criminals that are running the streets in UK or even in the United States, the cops aren't much better. I don't remember what the case was, but there was a case where police officers were at a gas station and a shooting happened, and the police officers drove away because they were afraid for their own lives. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to save the people you love. In fact, they are trying to make you weak and afraid so it is easier to control and manipulate and hurt you and the people you love. So if you really care about the people you love, you will do everything you can to make yourself ready to protect them. And that's all I have to say for today. We can talk about more, all of this later. I've got work to do. I've still got half my coffee left. I'll see you with the next one. Cheers.